much for doing the conference call today, because we know this is a busy week for you with Manpower opening this week again. So thank you. And I had the privilege to see the movie at the press junket, courtesy of TD Jakes Enterprises. Thought the movie was great. As a fan of Sparkle, knowing all the dialogue and the dance moves, you guys had to raise the standard for me, because when I came in knowing, like I said, I know the words, the dialogue. So
right.
One thing I can say about Sparkle that you did, the message of faith and the importance of going to church was expanded in this movie through the character Whitney Houston. Why was that so important, and whose idea was that to expand faith?
Well, Mara Akil wrote the script, and I want to give great deference to her. I don't know whether it was sensitivity to me being the producer or just her own creativity, but we didn't have to do a lot of work to enhance that. We thought that it was really an interesting conversation to have, how faith fits into the continuity of everyday life, and real people fighting real issues is of paramount interest to our community, because I think that all of us have people in our family from one extreme to the other, and that's what makes our family so unique and so spicy. And to be able to see ourselves on screen is very, very important to the realism that we see in the film. I have always wanted to bring various elements of faith to the texture of explaining who we are as a people, because I think it has so much to do not only with our spirituality, but our history and the civil rights movement and so forth, that you cannot tell our story and totally not deal with some element of faith in it, because it has been the catalyst from slavery forward to enabling us to withstand the injustices and the vicissitudes that are unique to our community. And so, true to that, we've tried to be very strategic about that, without making the films so preachy that when you go out on a Friday night on a date, you don't feel like you're in a Sunday morning service. We understand the distinctives between the two arenas, and we've been blessed to be bilingual enough in order to communicate on a variety of platforms without desecrating the base of which we were derived.
And I think it brought back the importance, too, of the foundation of the African-American family and going to church, which I thought was really good, and keeping our relationship together. I also noticed that the character of Satin, which Mike Epps plays, if you have not seen the movie, this is going to take Mike Epps' career to a whole nother level, which I thought was fantastic. You enhanced his character, but yet you removed the darkness from Satin in the original, and you added light to it, which was humor. And you also expanded the character of the mom, and you expanded the character of Dolores, the sister. Why was that important to expand those characters in the movie?
Well, I think the first one was a bit gritty in a way that I don't think was necessary in order to tell the story. But such were the times when the first Sparkle was done. The only things that you could get made were things that showed a certain baser sort of individual. This is a new day, and we don't have to always acquiesce into stereotypical roles in order to be of interest or in order to be green-lighted by Hollywood. And we're able to get a better handle on how we are depicted in film. And I thought that Satin Struthers is a character that is dark enough the way it is, without adding more and more to it. And as it related to the other characters, just strengthening those roles and interacting, changing those pieces. We had to do some changing to replace some of the things that we thought didn't add to how films are seen today. I mean, a lot of time has gone by, and how the pacing of the film, how the story is told, and what this audience will find intriguing has changed drastically over 30 years ago, and so 40 years ago. So we really want to be strategic about doing that, and I think we were able to do that.
And I noticed in the new film, you also flipped the script on a couple of scenes in the movie that were pretty important in the first one, but it was flipped in this one, which I think it might give the women in this movie, when they go see it, a great charge. For those who didn't see it, I don't want to spoil it for you, but there are some scenes that were flipped. Bishop Jakes, as I close, The movie also gives Jordan Sparks a new sound at the end of the movie. It takes her from pop to R&B, but we see a girl now that has grown from American Idol going into adulthood. Whose idea was that to give her a new sound and basically a new eye from a little girl to an adult?
Well, some of the music was done by on. The music was original to it, and I mean, R. Kelly is masterful at knowing what kind of song to put with what kind of voice, and Jordan is just. I just can't say enough about how talented that girl is. Gosh, it's incredible. And I think even those people who will come to the film because they are diehard Whitney fans will still be struck with the way that Jordan brings his character to life in such a believable way, in such a powerful way, that we're all very, very proud of her and rooting for her in this film.
Now, Bishop, I noticed that also the movie has the same type of cinematic feel as Dreamgirls with Beyonce and Eddie Murphy. Was that something that you were trying to convey in this movie as well? Because since they were both period pieces, is that something that you were trying to do?
I think there are similarities in the fact that they both address an era in which music, R&B music, was really on an upswing. I think the differences exist within the story is more focused on the struggle of one girl to find her, realize her dreams and accomplish those dreams with a different set of circumstances, but there are some similarities.
Do you recall when you first saw the movie Sparkle? When did you first see the movie?
Yes, I was living in West Virginia at the time, and I was living at home when I first saw Sparkle, and saw it and loved it and really enjoyed it. The Curtis Mayfield doing the music, and Aretha Franklin, and so many other elements that were in the music element of it, as well as the cinematography of it, was just impressive at that time to me. And so when I got a chance to do the remake, there was already a feeling of endearment to the subject matter, and I thought it was.
Was it always your desire to make movies? Where did the desire actually come from?
I have to laugh for just a moment. My life has been just as much a surprise to me as it has been to anybody else. I kind of stumbled into it. I really set out to do gospel plays, and I was doing that because I really think that it has an audience and a voice beyond the pulpit. And as I began to do it, I found that I really liked doing it, and I like being able to present messages in a dramatic format. And I found that there was some synergy that existed between just being an orator in general, whether you're an orator in a pulpit or an author writing in a book, that the things that most interest me are communicating with my generation. And so when I got the opportunity to do film, I thought, wow, this is a great opportunity to communicate with a much broader audience in some unique and fresh ways, and I love the challenge of it, and I'm still learning and growing in that area, but I'm having a wonderful time doing it.
Now, Bishop, for you, how does the original compare to the remake? Give me your thoughts.
I think there's certainly comparables in the basic baseline of the story as it relates to Sparkle, the character Sparkle itself, for which the movie is named. There's certainly some synergy between it and the original one, and I think that to those of us who really love the original movie, I think that there is enough synergy between the two films that it's certainly not going to be a foreign story. There are elements that are different, and I think that those differences reflect advancements in budget, in technology, in the continuity through which we do films today has changed drastically, like everything else has changed over 30 years, and I think the film benefits from those changes, and I think people who love the original will love this one even more. It is a different film in some ways. Different actors bring different flavors to the film. I think that Mara Akil was able to tell the story from a different perspective, and that I think it's going to be entertaining. And whether you saw the first one and loved it or you'd never seen it before, we had an obligation to take out some of the gratuitous violence and some of the gratuitous profanity and replace it with more substantive content to the story. So I would hope at the end of the day that we had enhanced the original, and I think people will really love it.
Now, Bishop, for those who have not seen the movie yet, will there be all new songs, will there be old songs, or will there be a mixture of both?
There's a mixture of both. There's some of the original songs that we all came to love, like Giving Him Something He Can Feel, and those sorts of songs that became really songs that whenever we hear them, we associate them with Sparkle. And then there was an infusion of some new songs that CeeLo and others were able to perform that really fit the era and fit the times. And I can say, as a music lover, that to be on the set was deja vu. It was like stepping back into the 70s in terms of the sound of the music. It was back when people really sang, no synthesizers or anything like that. You either had it or you didn't. And I think it really shows the impact of R&B music during the 70s, reaching all types of people. Recently, I was privileged to be at a Aretha Franklin concert out in Los Angeles a few weeks ago, and one of the things that I took note of is how diverse the audience was, which points to the fact that people like herself and James Brown and others transcended culture and race and all of that, and was able to unify people through music in a way that we struggle to do in politics and in other ways of our society. And it just points to how influential music really is and how great the music was at the time.
Now, Bishop, what was it about the movie Sparkle that made you want to do a remake and bring it to a new generation?
This generation today might not ever get to see the original Sparkle, and to be able to bring it to a new audience of people and help them better understand the historicity of music and how it evolved and how it developed and the circumstances of the times through which the music was sung has historical value as well as music value, as well as cultural value, and understanding the evolution of America in general and the role that music played from a sociological perspective. And I think it's a great privilege to be able to remind the younger audience of where we came from, because as the old adage says, if we forget where we come from, we will have difficulty understanding where we're going. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's a great thing, and I think people of all ages will love it because the struggles and some of the challenges of life are still the same. But if this is done, painted on the canvas of an era that they might not have even been born at the time, and it helps them to better understand that period, much like The Help did. It pointed to a different time in history, and it brings it to life, takes it out of the history books and puts faces and places and emotion into it that helps us to better understand who we are as a people.
Now, Bishop, you had the awesome responsibility of remaking a classic movie that was known and loved by so many people, and then also the pleasure of working with Miss Whitney Houston on her last film. What can we expect from the film and also from you working with Whitney Houston? Well, what can audiences expect from the both of them?
Well, there's certainly a great deal of pressure doing a remake of a movie that was so beloved in the African-American community, and their expectations are quite high. And we all knew that going into it, and we had our endless hours of discussion about how we could meet and hopefully exceed those expectations. And so being a steward of that is something that I took seriously, as did everybody else who worked on the film. None of us knew that we would be hold in our hands the final cinematic production of Whitney Houston, and at that time it was the furthest thing from our mind. We would have thought that this would have been the catalyst through which her cinematic career could be relaunched, because she did such an impeccable job. But to most of the credit goes to Whitney in that she performed so well on screen that all we have to do is present it correctly, because she really did. Her work speaks for itself, and her ability not only as a vocalist but even as an actress I thought was quite impressive and particularly poignant with this particular film. And our only responsibility now is to make sure that it's presented correctly, that it's marketed correctly. But she did the work on presenting the character, and she brings the character to life, and her synergy with Jordan Sparks was on set and off set was absolutely amazing. There's a camaraderie that they exhibited even when the cameras were off. That is the catalyst through to the synergy that we see when they're on screen.
What are you hoping that audiences take away from the movie Sparkle?
I'm hoping that they will see the new Sparkle and the Sparkle character played by Jordan Sparks in particular, who against the backdrop of chaos and confusion and storms and family problems and no money, still believed in herself and believed in her dream and fought for what she believed until the world recognized who she was. I'm hoping that kind of inspiration will be the catalyst to motivate people against the vicissitudes that we face in this current climate, to identify their own giftings, to go through the birthing process of bringing those giftings to fruition, and to manage those giftings in a responsible way, so that all people can have an opportunity at the American dream, no matter where they started in the process.
Now, Bishop Jakes, can you talk about some of your biggest hurdles that you've had to overcome? And then my second question, who keeps you grounded? I mean, with the busy schedule that you keep, how do you stay grounded?
As it relates to struggles that I have had, they have not been many. I think initially it was a learning curve as I went into different executives' offices to understand what I brought to the table, because it is not the stereotypical person that they're used to meeting with, so there was an educational part of it that had to be done. But once that education was done and they really understood it, I've really been green-lighted in a way that they tell me is quite unusual for Hollywood. And from that point forward, it was to bridge the gap between the way that Hollywood normally does things to accommodate the unique skill set that I think that we bring to the table and influence that we bring to the table, and synergizing my machine with their machine in a concerted way so that we could work together effectively is also something that's been very, very important, because historically a producer that they would use would not normally have their own sphere of influence. So learning the benefits and some of the unique concerns that exist within me being who I am has been something that they've had to learn to appreciate, and I've had to learn how to best utilize the tremendous amount of resources that a company like Sony brings to the table, and how we could work together has been a work in process. But it has gone very, very well, and I felt really good about it. As it relates to accomplishments and who keeps me grounded, first of all, I stay incredibly busy, so I don't get to mull over one accomplishment before I'm busy working on something else again, and that helps. My faith certainly is a strong catalyst to keeping me grounded. My family is a strong catalyst to keeping me grounded, and because this is not the only thing to do, I'll just say it's not my day job, then I don't have a lot of ego to place in the process of doing this. I'm comfortable in my own skin. I like me before anybody knew who I was, and the things that I value most about me have nothing to do with anything that anybody sees me do on any stage. And I think when you come from simplistic beginnings like I did in West Virginia, there is a certain sobriety that exists. I'm not a product of Hollywood. I'm not a product of televangelism. I'm just a country boy from the hills of West Virginia who bootstrapped his way into life. And so I'm not intoxicated with accomplishments, because I see so much before me that needs to be done, that anything that I might have accomplished pales in comparison to the challenges that I see yet remaining before me and before our generation at large.
Bishop, are there any other projects you're working on or considering after Sparkle?
Yeah, we're working on a lot of things. We're considering the possibility of taking Sparkle to Broadway. We're looking at the possibilities. We're in the process of doing a film called Heaven is for Real that will be a very strong faith-based film that we hope to get out at least by the spring of 2013. and we're working feverishly on that. I have an independent film that's coming out called Winnie, which takes a deep look at South Africa and Nelson Mandela and his marriage to Winnie and who she was as a woman and what that brought to the table. And I think it's going to be a great film with Terrence Howard in it and Jennifer Hudson playing the lead roles of Mandela and Winnie, respectively. My movie that we just did, Woman Are Loose on the Seventh Day, which was a limited release independent film, is about to go out on DVD. And we're excited about that because that particular film really blew us away in terms of how well it came together and how effectively it was done. And it's going to be coming out on DVD in just a few days as well. So I've got a lot of things going on at the same time and enjoy being busy. I think I would just, if somebody retired me and sent me out to pasture, I'd probably go crazy.
Well, and Bishop, my last question for you. Why did you choose the city of Detroit as a backdrop for the movie? And what was your experience like in the city?
Well, first of all, I loved it. I loved the city of Detroit, and I loved the fact that we were able to do it in Detroit. I felt as if that the economic impact that we were able to give to a wide array of services, not only to actors that were in the city, but also to caterers, to beauticians, to makeup artists, to renting various facilities throughout the city of Detroit was a benefit to the city of Detroit at large. And then Detroit being the hub of so much of R&B, it also was quite nostalgic of the 70s and the birthing of legends like Aretha Franklin and Anita Baker and others that came out of the city of Detroit and impacted not only the country, but many of them impacted the world. And to bring it back to Detroit was not only a practical benefit to the city, but it also was a benefit to the film from the standpoint that Detroit understands music and it understands the birthing of R&B and was a critical part in the history of the birthing of this important part of musical experience.
Thank you, Bishop, for coming on the show. We want to remind everyone to make sure they go and see Sparkle opening in theaters August the 17th in a theater near you. Thank you again, Bishop, for joining me on the show today.